And they can see my face? Yes. Hello, everyone. This is Alvaro Vita. I'm the Global Cybersecurity Lead for Microsoft Public Sector. Thank you for being with us. Today, we're going to talk about empowering national security operations centers with industry-leading Gen AI-powered cyber defense. This is a tech community live event, and this will be recorded so you can watch it later. So what is our vision at Microsoft? At Microsoft, what we want to do specifically around public sector is we want to partner with local, regional, and national public sector entities around the planet to implement an AI-centric cyber defense platform to protect their digital ecosystem. Why do we want to do that? Well, over the last year or so, there's been an increase of about 150% in government cyber attacks in around public sector as a whole, right? So that includes, education entities, research entities, think tanks, defense, traditional civilian government, at all levels of government, right? And there's been an 85% rise attributed to AI-based attacks. Now, there is a report that says that 95% of countries will have major attacks from nation-state actors using Gen AI by 2027, but only 30% will be resilient enough to prevent disruptions. Now, when you combine this with the fact that there's a 4 million job deficit in the marketplace globally as it relates to cybersecurity jobs through 2025, and the cybercrime economy is a $10.5 trillion cybercrime in terms of cost to governments, it creates kind of a perfect storm, right? So public sector is the number one target. So this is the why. This is the reason we want to partner with public sector entities across the planet. Now, what's happening with Gen AI? Well, what's happening is usually nation states and cyber criminals go to the dark web and they essentially use this as a free market to sell and buy these type of tools, right? And some of the tools that you see out there that they're using, unlike commercial providers, they do so without any limitations, any rules, any ethics. These are some of the tools that you will see that they're using and monetizing. And of course, there's other custom ones that big nation states use. Now, some of these tools, you don't even need to be a technology person to be able to leverage because they sell this as a service. So this could be a platform that you can subscribe to and then define the attack vector that you want. You get 24/7 support. They're really, really structured and well organized. That's on the offense side, on the cyber criminal, cyber attacker side. What we're trying to do here is we want to partner with public sector entities at any level of government, right? And of course, when we say public sector, we mean, in some countries, this could be critical infrastructure entities. This could be the healthcare sector. This could be, other kinds of traditional organizations that are either subsidized or owned by governments, right? And so what we want to do is we want to partner with these government entities. What does that mean, partner? Well, there's 4 pillars to this partnership. We want to be able to say, skill them so that they're able to understand how to use this Gen AI technology, right? How to operate it, how to use it so that they can be more efficient against these Gen AI-based attacks. We want to be able to do co-design so that if there's specific regulations or specific country elements that need to be tailored for that region, for that country, we do so. We want to be able to do Gen AI co-innovation so that we're able to infuse in their cybersecurity ecosystem innovative tactics using Gen AI that they can leverage through, detection, response, automation, and so on. And then we want to be able to create an ecosystem that provides them with collective cyber defense, where everybody's coming together, sharing threat intelligence signals, and be able to help each other anticipate these kind of attacks. On the right-hand side, what you see are the benefits. The benefits are, of course, we're going to be able to work together to streamline a cyber threat intelligence collaboration across critical sectors, right? Critical infrastructure, traditional public sector entities, and so on. We want to be able to augment the regional, national, multi-cloud surface attack area visibility coverage. So what we hear a lot from customers as we talk to customers around the planet is that, you know, they need help in surfacing some of these signals from multi-cloud providers, right? We want to also be able to improve the regional national threat detection signal quality, both in terms of breadth, the amount of signals we get, right, for these customers, but also give them rich signals that can be actionable in nature. So in other words, depth. Then we want to be able to work and partner with these organizations to shift their cyber defense paradigm, right? From a detection first type of approach to more of a prevention based type of approach across critical regional and national sectors. And then lastly, we want to be able to, as a whole, be able to speed nation state actor early warning detection capabilities across that region, across that country, across those sectors. Okay. Now, the fact is that attackers have an asymmetric advantage today, right? So let's take a look at that. So if we look at government on the left and cyber attackers on the right, you will see that we talked already about the deficit in jobs as it relates to cybersecurity talent. And you notice that, of course, if you're in a public sector entity, you are at a disadvantage against, let's say, a private sector entity that is trying to recruit for that same job, right? On the other hand, the cyber criminals have a growing number of threat groups. They have hundreds of thousands of people that are well motivated, well financed, and highly equipped to be able to do this at scale, right? Also, on the government side, on the public sector side, there's a lot of fragmentation of security tools, whereas the attackers tend to use automation, and that automation happens because they have unified stack platforms. What we're also seeing is that, of course, you know, in public sectors, there's a lot of technical debt. There's a lot of legacy technology, whereas attackers, as we mentioned before, have already started using Gen AI technology to craft their attacks across the kill chain, whether it's reconnaissance, whether it's phishing, whether it's more advanced type of attack scenarios, but they're using it. So they have a bit of a head start compared to public sector. And then lastly, you know, in public sector, there tends to be a lot of manual processes, essentially around things like, you know, threat hunting, incident response, triaging, whereas cyber criminals, again, tend to use a lot of automated processes. So that gives them, the cyber criminals, a distinct advantage. So for example, to give you some numbers, on average, it takes about 72 minutes, right, for an attacker to start exfiltrating data once somebody clicks on the wrong link, or, you know, there's some malware that's been installed. Whereas as a whole, on average, it takes the traditional organization about 258 days to be able to detect, to be able to remediate and evict an adversary. 258 days. So the attackers are working in minutes. On the defense side, in public sector and in organizations as a whole, on average, we're working in days. 258 days, that's 8.4 months. So the time vectors are so far apart that it creates an incredible asymmetric advantage favoring the attackers, right? So, of course, you know, what we're trying to do is we're trying to shift that balance towards public sector. And so to do that, we need large-scale data and threat intelligence. We need end-to-end protection, of course. We need to have a best-in-class, best-in-suite protection. And we need to use Gen AI, this Gen AI cyber defense platform. You cannot fight Gen AI attacks with traditional tools. It just is an unfair fight, and it's an unequal level playing field. So if we do these things, then we'll be able to shift the advantage towards the defenders. Now, let's take a look at what good looks like. And then I'll open it for questions. I have a couple more slides, and then we'll have a conversation. If you look at the traditional organization, and when we're looking at a North Star, what does good look like in 2024, given the things that we've been talking about? Good looks like is you have, usually your assets across an organization, right? Or a sector, or at a national level, at whatever level of a country. Could be independent, could be individual, or it could be separated. You have on-prem IT environments, public cloud environments, IoT and OT environments. Sometimes you would have tactical and operational environments as well, if we're talking about defense. And so what you want to do is you want to have an AI-enabled extended detection and response layer that is able to ingest this rich, high-quality signal across all of these heterogeneous platforms, whether it's Microsoft or somebody else, ingest it, and then bring it into these Gen AI embedded capabilities, landing zone, let's call it. And in there, you would have things like workload security, posture, and vulnerability management. You would have security information and event management, right? Like those found in Sentinel. You will have security orchestration, automation, and response, user and entity behavior analysis, and cyber threat intelligence. Now, the difference here is all of this will be infused with Gen AI capabilities. So at each of these capability levels, you're able to lean on a Gen AI assistant that will empower the public sector analysts and hunters to be able to use natural language to interface and to interact, whether it is at the threat hunting level, whether it is in incident response, whether it is automating workflows, and then be able to more succinctly and faster be able to detect threats and respond to threats, right? Then you would have some kind of intergovernment threat intelligence collaboration. Sometimes this could be intra-agency, sometimes it could be across the country, sometimes it could be international, right? And then on the left-hand side, these analysts and hunters, they will use this Gen AI infused threat hunting. So if you look at the traditional method by which, threat hunting is done, you usually do some kind of, queries, right? You do a lot of queries, a lot of join tables, a lot of manual efforts. You sometimes have, a lot of different consoles open. Here, what we're saying is you would be using natural language to ask questions. Hey, tell me more about this incident that I just saw coming in Sentinel. And they'll give you a summary detailing specifically what's happening with that incident. What are the affected assets? Who is the affected user? What is the potential threat vector that occurred? And it's able to do all of that triaging and correlation for you, right? As an example, at Microsoft, when we are using this Gen AI system, we were able to see a difference where our triaging on average would take about 23 hours on average or so to do, end-to-end triaging and as it relates to threat hunting. And we were able to, bring that down dramatically to about seconds, right? And so you can find a lot of this information in the Digital Defense Report 2024 that came out. So make sure you check that out. And then when it comes to incident response, you're also able to use that Gen AI infused incident response so that you can then, the Gen AI system would be able to provide steps, recommendations, and very succinct actions that you need to take to be able to respond to those incidents, which again, it dramatically increases the speed by which you are able to remediate incidents before they materialize. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. Now, if you look at a country as a whole, whatever the country around the planet, right? On the left-hand side, what you're seeing as the type of coverage, right, that you can expect. On the bottom axis, what you can see is, as you move from foundational to optimal, and the maturity of what good looks like from a North Star perspective around national cyber defense maturity. So usually what you want to do is, of course, the foundation of any country are the entities, the individual organizations within that country. And so what you want to do there is you want to, of course, start modernizing those entities, because at the end of the day, they're accountable for their own house, if you will, right? Then and those are for, the larger, medium to larger entities. For the smaller entities that maybe don't have the resources, the skill set, the budget, the know-how to be able to operate their own, let's say, security centers, what a lot of countries are doing, and are starting to be a major trend, is they're trying to create these centralized SOC as a service by sectors. So you'll see it around healthcare. You will see it around, transportation or energy. And sometimes, of course, you will also see it, at the provincial level, at the state level, at the municipal level, even sometimes at the federal level, right? Because then what they're doing is they're gaining economies of scale and saying, you know what? If we bring everybody together and we provide this SOC as a service using Gen AI, it gives us the capability to scale these defense and response mechanisms dramatically much faster, right? Then lastly, what is also happening is that a lot of national cybersecurity centers are starting to use Gen AI and other technologies to be able to unify the national cyber defense ecosystem. Now, this is not a waterfall type of method, right? You want to do this in parallel, because attackers are not going to wait for you to be ready with each of these before they start, exploiting weak links that you may have or blind spots. So these are things that you want to be doing across your country at all levels, regardless of the maturity of each of these sectors, right? Now, if you look at the benefits of that, is you're going to be able to outpace adversaries because, as I mentioned before, there's significant gains to the tune of, for example, 30 to 40% potentially as it relates to threat hunting. What you will also be able to do, we talked about a deficit in cyber talent, right? So we have organizations today that are using entry-level analysts or people that are coming from different areas, not from cyber, and they pair them together with these Gen AI assistants, and they're able to start doing very advanced tasks, right? Like malware reverse engineering or script analysis, right? And be able to do things that are usually reserved for, high level, very expensive, very hard to find experts, right? So this allows you to democratize the cybersecurity ecosystem, and it also allows you to upskill and reskill people within your organization, right? And in doing so, you use Gen AI as a force multiplier. Now, I'm going to open it now for questions. I put in here several links that will make available for you after the session so that you can go ahead and do more information, because of course we have limited time. But now I'm going to open it for questions. I'm available here, and so let me know if there's any questions. I know I talked a lot, but we're here to help you out. Trevor, let me know if there's any questions or anything that I should be handling.
Sure thing, Alvaro. Thanks for the presentation. So far, we haven't had any questions come in, but I will field them up to you as they come in, as we are here for the next half hour or so.
Okay, beautiful. So a lot of the questions, maybe while people, get brave and start asking questions, one of the things that we usually get asked is, are there things that I can start doing today to start preparing for this revolution and evolution, I would say, of Gen AI modernization? Absolutely. One of the first things that you can start doing is you can start making sure that you have rich signaling. So you want to be favoring XDR type of data that is already normalized, data that is already, removed from a lot of the noise that usually comes from raw logs, so that when the Gen AI system is put in place, it's able to better assist you in focusing on the right areas and giving you information that is actionable, right? And so that's one of the things that usually come up. And interrupt me, I'll keep going through regular questions, Trevor, while we wait for people. Another question that comes up is, how is usually these Gen AI system and trained? So the Gen AI system is specifically fine-tuned for cybersecurity. It's being specifically fine-tuned by cybersecurity experts to answer and understand and reason over cybersecurity information. It's not meant as a generalized GenAI system, right? And so the importance of that is that when you're asking information of the system, if you're doing threat hunting, for example, is able to behave as a cyber analyst and is able to grab different sets of information, understand context, understand behaviors, and put it all together for you and simplify it to give you information that we humans can absorb very quickly, as opposed to us having to go through lists, Excel spreadsheets, CSV files, rows, and hundreds of raw data. So that's why this is so valuable and actionable in your day-to-day job. Another question that comes up is, scalability, as well as how does it learn your environment. So the system has a capability of you interacting for it, because at the end of the day, right, GenAI is not a panacea. It needs to work with humans to understand context, to understand. So you will continue to work and fine tune the GenAI system for your environment to be able to understand what may be normal versus abnormal, right? And what may be, false positives, so that you can continue to fine tune the model specific to your organization. It's important to understand that all of the GenAI data that is trained as part of your organization, first of all, when that data is stored in, like, let's say Sentinel, it gets stored in your tenant and in your region, wherever you have your region. And the data is not used to train other models or the model itself, right? It's just used for you specifically. Your data remains your data no matter what. The other thing, another question that usually comes up is, how is this different than any other kind of cybersecurity technology that has come across the years? Well, the difference with generative AI. So first of all, there's a difference between generative AI and regular AI. AI, has been around for a while, for several years. And when we talk about AI on its own, and when we say the word AI, we're talking about primarily, machine learning, things that are able to work with predictable things that are known based on training. Generative AI, the difference with that is that it's not necessarily about learning and specific behaviors that are structured, but it's also about reasoning. So it's able to behave like a cyber analyst, and it's able to take different kinds of information and say, well, I haven't seen this before, but based on what I'm seeing over here and over here and over here, it looks suspicious. So I'm going to bring it all together and see what it looks like when I bring it all together. And then it's able to reason and bring that information to you that would otherwise, would be undetectable. And that's why it's so important, because when the attackers are using these GenAI systems, they are using the same capability from an attack perspective. So I think there's a question coming up, Trevor.
Yeah, Alvaro. So we got our first question on the page. It says, this stuff sounds great for national level, but is any of it available for SMEs? I don't have any Sentinel experts, but is ML able to help my regular IT people look for IOCs, etc., in our data? Is it built in already, or do we need additional licenses?
So, so let me ask first a question. So this particular platform is not just for national governments or at the national level. It's meant, if you look at the building blocks of cyber defense of a country, it all starts with the individual entity. So if I were to put where the most important part is the individual organization itself. And yes, this is available to the individual organization itself. What is going to be able to help you do, you mentioned about SMEs and having SMEs. One of the primary problems that it helps to solve is that there's not a lot of those SMEs available. And the ones that are available are very expensive and usually tend to be grabbed by the highest bidder. So what you're able to do here, it gets, somebody maybe out of college or somebody who's more junior, and be able to afford that person once, and then pair it with this Gen AI system that has already been trained with all the information necessary to assist that junior person in doing tasks that that person may not have been trained to do, right? And so that person can simply use natural language to interact with the Gen AI system to be able to perform better decisions or to be able to provide information to somebody in a tier 2, tier 3 level that can help them, right? And this is available, I don't know, your licensing mechanism, but of course, this is available to anybody. It's not restricted to any kind of size of organization. At any level, you can leverage this today.
Thank you, Alvaro. We actually got another question from the chat. How does Microsoft partner with organizations to build this model? What are the steps?
Absolutely. Very, very good question. So usually what we do, and get in touch with your Microsoft rep, but usually what we would do is we would sit down with a public sector organization. We would do this, what we called cybersecurity envisioning workshops, right, for public sector. And in there, we're able to do understand where you are. Remember that three horizon map that I show, and see, where are you in your organization as it relates to that maturity level, right? And regardless of where you are, we will meet you where you are and tell you, okay, these things are good. This is what you're missing in order to continue to optimize your environment to be able to meet today's threats. And we will provide you with, a sample journey map and a sample, set of steps that you can do to start getting to where you need to go, right? So that's usually what we would do. And so I would encourage you to reach out to your public sector sales rep so that they can get in contact with us. And then we can absolutely help you through that process.
Thank you very much. And thank you to the chat for the questions. We'll be here for another 20 minutes or so. So feel free to ask more. Alvaro, if you have anything canned, I know you've been talking for a while. So
yeah, absolutely.
Feel free to show. I know we do have 40 plus people. We have 40 plus people watching live on YouTube. So don't be shy, guys. Get your questions in now and take advantage of this opportunity.
Yeah, and I'll keep articulating some of the most common use cases and challenges and questions that come around the planet as I deal with countries around the world. So another question that comes up is, well, is there a way that I can start collaborating, for example, with some of my peers in my country, in my sector, so that we can start the process of this cyber collective defense? Absolutely. So there's a lot of inherent features within Sentinel, for example, some that are there, some that are coming, that allow you to do that collaboration, right? You can collaborate across, for example, these are automatic detections, or what we call automation workflows or automation workbooks that you can share with somebody. And then because maybe you had, a lesson learned or something that you've detected yourself and you want to share with, a peer organization or a peer government agency, or maybe you have intra or intergovernment, collaborations. So that's something that you can do today. Another thing that comes up often is, when you are ingesting some of this data, there's data that you can put, for example, that you're going to use for threat hunting and more like what we call hot data or live data. You can put it in Sentinel, but then in Sentinel, we added recent features that allows you to optimize the cost, right? So that you don't spend a lot of your hard-earned money on things that maybe you're not using all the time. So there's tiers where you can put the data in different tiers, let's call it hot, warm, cold. And at each of these tiers, it dramatically reduces the amount of cost that you have to incur for ingesting and storing these logs, so that you can, if you need to do things like forensic analysis or retroactive threat hunting and go back in time, you can always pull those in, but you don't have to pay top dollar for that. Go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, thank you. We have another question from John in the chat. Does this architecture work in hybrid models, and is there technical support to help implement it?
Absolutely. Great questions. Everything that we talked about. everything that we talked about is, first of all, it can work with, yes, the platform is provided by Microsoft, but it's heterogeneous in nature in two ways. It's heterogeneous in that we support any cloud provider. It could be, Google, it could be AWS, it could be also that you have it on-prem, right? And that's okay, right? We can support all of these scenarios, but we can also support other security providers because we understand it's a heterogeneous world out there, and you may have other platforms from other vendors that you've already invested in. So we want to make sure that we integrate and augment your capabilities, not necessarily simply just remove, because that's impractical and not realistic, right? And so 100% yes. In terms of how to implement this, of course, depending on your you can reach out to your account rep, because I don't know what organization it is. You may have dedicated architects to your account called Cloud Solution Architects. And then, we have, of course, Premier support that can help you with some of these designs and some of these information. We also have ISD, which is the Industry Solution Delivery, or the Microsoft Consulting Services that you can also engage. And then, of course, we have an ecosystem of partners, thousands of partners around the planet at every level, right? Globally, regionally, nationally, at the local level, that can help you with this implementation as well. So it all depends on, how much help you need and where you want to start, and what the scope of what you want to do as a whole is, but there's plenty of help. So, for example, if you go right now and you go and search for Microsoft security partners, and there's a whole portal where you can go out on the internet and search based on your region, based on your industry, based on the capability, and it'll tell you the closest one and the ones that are already certified to help you with this kind of implementation.
All right, thank you, Alvaro. We haven't had any more questions come in, and that was a solid 30 minutes. If you want to stay for another 10 or so and see if anything else comes in, that'd be great. But I think this was a really awesome presentation and super helpful for our community. So thank you so much, Alvaro. Just want to say in advance. And to all of the audience watching on Tech Community, we will be putting the presentation as well as links from the presentation down in the comments below on the event page. So look out for that.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Like Trevor mentioned, we're going to put some links. There's more resources that you can go and download in there. There's, podcasts, blogs, all kinds of case studies that you can actually see so you can learn from others vicariously. And also, feel free to reach out to your account executives within Microsoft, right? So that they know how to reach us, they know how to reach me and the rest of the team, so that we can help you on this journey. It's an ongoing journey, right? So we want to make sure that, you are fully and well equipped to deal with these Gen AI cyber attack vectors out there that are just increasing in sophistication and in volume, right? And so you want to be at that level playing field. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we actually got one more, if you don't mind.
Okay, yes,
one more from John. He wants you to speak to data sovereignty concerns.
Oh, data sovereignty? Okay, so data sovereignty is a very involved topic. So I guess it depends on exactly what they want to talk about. But I deal a lot with countries all over the planet, and different planets have different kinds of compliance and regulatory controls, but also they have different kinds of, sovereignty controls that they require. And we have been engaged with a lot of different countries and a lot of different public sector organizations that have not only sovereignty controls, but also residency control. And because it's a partnership, right, we want to make sure that we tailor this partnership towards the needs of the customers in their particular regions, in their particular countries. Whatever regulations, whatever policies, or whatever different kinds of requirements they have, we want to work with them. So we've done this before with other nations that have sovereignty controls requirements. We also work with a lot of course, we're talking about public sector, right? So the nature of public sector is that they're heavily regulated. There's classified environments. There's sometimes air gap, tactical and operational environments. And just like the person just mentioned, there's also sovereign controls and compliance controls that we can work through. So all of that is available through this. It's just a matter of understanding exactly the requirements, and we will work with you and the partners that we have in that region to be able to help you address those requirements.
All right. Thank you so much, Alvaro. I think you're free to go, and we'll wrap up the presentation. We thank you so much for taking your time to present for Tech Community. And thank you so much.
Thank you, and happy Cyber October. Talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
Take care.